This year there was a television programme called How Not to Get Old. There's a one-word answer to that: die. If you don't die, you'll probably get old. Now, once upon a time, to be old was respected. Grandpa sat in his armchair in the corner, surrounded by his family, dispensing the fruits of his wisdom to them, a figure of honour. But that's not quite how it works out nowadays. We who are old, it seems, are a bit of a problem. An ageing population, inadequate residential care, stretched pension funds, strain on the NHS, and so on. It makes the business of being old or becoming old seem extremely unappealing. My case in this book is actually simple. Being old is not all bad. Indeed, it can be a positive and rewarding bit of life. When I reached 80 years, I realised that I'd moved into a phase of life as excitingly different as becoming a teenager. I was now old, not elderly or getting on a bit or a senior citizen, but old. And there are quite a lot of us around nowadays. 1.5 million people in Britain are over 85, and that number is set to increase in the coming decades. And everyone knows loads of people who are in their 90s. I wrote at the end of the day because I wanted to address the question of being old, not as a problem, which is how sociologists, politicians, lifestyle gurus, media commentators seem to see it, but simply as yet another life experience. All through life we move seamlessly from infancy to childhood, from childhood to teenage years, from teenage to young adult, from young adult to middle age, from middle age to retired. But this point is about the next junction where we move over from being young and active retired to being old. I call that bit of life the departure lounge of life, awaiting the call to board our flight to whatever it is that God has in store for us after this life. The departure lounge is not as bad as most people think, or as it looks in prospect. Its residents are not, on the whole, miserable or anxious. Believe it or not, being old can actually be fun. Of course there are problems, aches and pains, sluggish memory and so on, but there are also enormous compensations. When you're old, you don't have to prove anything anymore. You don't have to justify your existence. Young people, even teenagers, right up to middle age, people are anxious and worry about the future. But the wonderful thing about the old is they don't have any worries about the future. They just experience the richness of here and now. At the end of the day includes a quizzical look at some of the wonderful old people who are featured in the Bible. Stories that often we know. Surprisingly perhaps, their experience often seems to match ours. We look at them, of course, through the long perspective of time and also through the prism of our modern experience, our experience now. But there is wisdom, fulfillment and encouragement in those ancient stories. This isn't a heavy book. How could it be when the elderly spend so much time laughing at themselves and at the whole business of being old? Nor is it depressing. Again, how could it be when we're seated in that departure lounge awaiting the final great adventure? I've summed up what I hope the book is about in these words. This book is for those who are old, or soon will be, or don't really like the prospect of becoming, or want to know what it's like when it comes, and anyone who cares about the happiness of those who are already old. And it seems to me that is just about everybody. I didn't write it just for old people, though I hope they'll find it both amusing and encouraging. but also for all those who want to know what it's going to be like to join those ranks one day. They may be surprised to find that the poet Robert Browning got it exactly right when he said, "Grow old along with me. The best is yet to be."